Okay, welcome everyone to our regular council meeting of Tuesday, March the 8th, 2022. The time is pretty close to 1 o'clock, right on the money here. So we have a full complement of council and staff. Welcome everyone. We have a guest that'll be introduced a little bit later. So at this time, I'd also like to mention before the meeting actually starts is that today is actually International Women's Day. So congratulations to all you women out there. And of course, our big hats off to you staff and lady councilors too. So congratulations on your International Women's Day. So at this time, I'll call the meeting to order then, please. And I will also read the land acknowledgement then. So we respectively acknowledge that the township of Asphodel-Norwood is located on the Treaty 20 Mississauga territory and the traditional territory of the Mississauga and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations, which include Curve Lake, Hiawatha, Alderville, Scugog Island, Rama, Beausoleil, and Georgina Islands First Nations. We respectively acknowledge that the Williams Treaties First Nations are the stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. So at this time, I'll ask for a moment of silent reflection from council and that we may reflect upon our duties of today as councillors, please. Okay, thank you. I'll ask council at this time if there's any declaration of pecuniary interest at this time or at time of the subject. Seeing no hands, thank you. Then I'm looking for a motion then for the approval of the agenda for today, which would be March 8th, 2022, be approved as circulated. Please, motion by Councillor Archer, seconded by Deputy Mayor Burt. All in favor? And that's carried. And I'm also, I should mention too, that those that may be tuning in on our recorded version or via live YouTube, welcome to you also. I'm sorry I forgot to do that. All right, approval of the minutes. I'm looking for a motion then to approve the special council meeting minutes of February the 17th, our council meeting minutes of February the 22nd, and our public meeting minutes of February 22nd. And the recommendation that these minutes for these meetings be adopted as presented. Motioned, Councillor Walsh, seconded by Councillor War. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Is there any business arising from these minutes? Deputy Mayor Burt, please.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I just have a quick question for Candace. Following the MHBC presentation, we had provided some comments to be submitted to county. And will we get a reply back, and will that be part of a report, or will that be combined? I guess the questions or the comments that we provided, will that be combined with the public meeting comments and all come back as a package? Are you aware how that, I'm just looking for clarification on the process.
Okay, so it's for our comments, because of the content of the comments, I suspect it'll be handled in both approaches that you just mentioned. So the portion of our comments that supported the intensification rate reduction that was submitted to the province, that is something that is a provincial directive, and then it was driven through county council. So I expect there'll be formal commenting out to all of the townships based on whatever the comments come back from the province and what their direction and answer is on that. Some of the housekeeping, I will call them, type comments that we made that were Asphodel-Norwood specific. We are having a meeting with county council, our county staff and MHBC to determine whether they're just going to be willing to make those housekeeping amendments and submit kind of our wording into the draft that goes back to county council for final adoption. So once we meet with county staff, we'll have more of an idea of what the approach is going to be on each and every comment. There's a TAC meeting on Thursday of this week. As you know, pretty much everything that I have from now till March 18th is a conflict for me, but I am going to have to skip out of that other matter and attend the TAC meeting on Thursday based on a conversation with county staff, as there needs to be some pretty heavy advocacy in regards to the growth rate for the 15% versus the 12 with Hempson on Thursday. As they are basically getting ready to present their final report to the TAC on Thursday. So it's kind of one of our last opportunities to speak with, I think, Hempson directly without it fully going through the political process. So after this TAC meeting on Thursday and after the meeting with county staff, I'll have more of an idea. So I can, if you guys want to circle back and ask again at the March 22nd council meeting, there won't be enough to actually write it in a staff report, but if you just want to touch base and ask during this portion of the meeting, I can give a verbal update as to how we're going to move forward. So I think it's going to be a bit of a combination of all of those. So some formally through the county council process, some may just be directed right through staff and done and dealt with, and some through Hempson.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. I got thinking about it after the meeting, and I just wasn't sure the direction everything was going, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else that has any questions on our minutes? All right, seeing no hands, thank you. Now we're on to the consent agenda. So this is correspondence for information. So we have C1, C2, C3, C4, and then the Asphodel-Norwood Police Services Board meeting minutes of October 18th as part of the consent agenda. I need a motion then that we approve the consent agenda as circulated, I guess is what I'd ask for at this time. Councillor War, seconded by Councillor Archer. Is there any questions now on any of the items that we've brought forward? Councillor Walsh, please.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. It's regarding C3 and the Board of Education proposed education development charges. So Candace, thank you very much. You did give me an idea. It's approximately in draft format right now around $1,200 per unit. So what happens to that? That would then be added to our DC charge bylaw, or is it mandated? Is it optional? How does it kind of work?
It's not optional.
Okay.
If they adopt it, it would not get included in our DC bylaw.
Okay.
But they're proposing that the townships collect it very similar to what we do with the county DC. So we collect it during the building permit process, and then we would send the money, kick it back up to the school board. So we collect here, and then we provide the money to them, whether that's quarterly. We remit to them quarterly now for the education tax levy. So whether it becomes part of that process, I'm unsure how we're going to actually and how frequently they're going to want it sent up to them. Okay. But it'll mirror basically what we do for Peterborough County.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is this on the same subject, Deputy Mayor Burt?
One of them is, yes.
On the DC charges from the school board? Okay, go ahead. Thanks.
Yeah, just for clarification on that as well, that is for the school boards to purchase land only, correct? From my reading, that's what it looked like.
Yes, but I wouldn't be surprised if you're going to see that creep. Okay. And $1,200 is, I mean, adding $1,200 to every DC is a lot, but when you compare it to the township DC and the county DC and the city DC, it is a fair bit lower. But as you know, DC studies and background studies change. So I did send Councillor Walsh a link to a presentation as he was inquiring with me via email in regards to what it is staff know about it. The consultation piece has been put out there, but they have not come around and met with the municipalities or even tried to arrange a meeting with all of us through the county to actually explain all of this out. We've been having to chase it as we're going to be the ones having to deal with it on the ground. It's not in our spheres of jurisdiction. Obviously, it's outside. They're able to do this, and we're not a decision-making authority. in regards to it, but obviously it affects day-to-day operations and business here. We're the ones that issue the building permits. We're the ones that deal with the developers. So it would have been nice to have been circled in and had a specific meeting to have these in-depth conversations instead of us trying to educate ourselves on the process and answer questions such as this, when it should be the school boards coming around and actually enlightening all of us and explaining exactly the impact it's going to be on those municipalities that are experiencing growth and the township staff and what it means on a day-to-day. Not saying we're not going to see that. As you can tell, I've obviously been prepared for this conversation. So the request is going to be made for that to take place, because they need to let us, even I don't expect them to go to every single council and attend a council meeting necessarily, but they should be meeting with all the municipalities and explaining all of this out and giving a presentation individually through us instead of just encompassing us into the public consultation process. That's my 2 cents on that, but I will send the link out to all of council for what I provided Councillor Washel, and that may assist you in answering some of your questions.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, just further to that, like I wondered, would it be in our best interest then, since we're one of the municipalities that are actually building? So like the fact of the matter is that development charges are being looked at right now at the county level. So the county level is just coming in around $10,000 right now, that we're trying to battle that for the builders in our area and in other areas, which seems to be like an awful lot of money when it's going to roads. And I believe it has to be new roads that have to be built in the county to go forward with this for development charges to be taken. So if they're close to 10,000, we're around $6,500, and then another $1,200 is added on top of that. You can say that any kind of affordable housing has gone out the window as far as I'm concerned. Like I know it gets passed on to the person that's actually purchasing the property, but it's still a heck of an expense by the time like the builders are done trying to collect it and move forward and build something that people can afford. But that's just a rant that I have. I wondered if we as council shouldn't send something to the school board to say, like, you need to talk to us if it would come in a motion or something, if that would help. That like they have to tell us why they even want to take it on. I mean, they get their money through taxes already, and then this just seems like another hit to somebody that has some money that wants to invest in our community. So any thoughts, or Candace?
Yeah, it boils down to the growth place for growth, right? So although it is a tax base, it's the same premise as our DC and the county DC. So that growth pays for growth. So you want to grow in an area. There's obviously infrastructure costs that are required in order to build in that area. That said, I agree. I think some increased communication is great. Getting random emails and an ad for public consultation and us having to chase it. I think we should have been definitely looped in a little bit more when they're getting down to the final hour here of decision making and implementation dates. And I think it's April is the final when they're going to finally want us to start collecting. So the clock's ticking and we're running out of time. But to circle back, Mayor, too, doesn't necessarily, as far as my understanding goes with the county infrastructure, it doesn't have to be new infrastructure for them to be able to spend it. They are structuring their DC policy around the transportation master plan and the background study. So if there's a road listed in that background study and in their transportation master plan, regardless of whether the infrastructure needs to be replaced based on growth or not, the DCs will fund it.
Thanks for the clarification. Yeah, good.
You're welcome.
So would a letter help from council then going forward to the school board, or you want to just handle it on the staff side of things?
No, we can, if you would like, we can send some correspondence over to the school board. Can you just clarify exactly what it is that council's ask is in the motion, please, just so I know what I'm asking for?
Sure. Does anybody want to help out with that motion at all, if they're even interested? Any thoughts? Just we need clarification basically as to why.
Do you want a presentation, or do you want just increased communication?
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Burt.
I just thought we could make a motion to direct staff to reach out to our local school boards for increased communication around the DC charge bylaw being proposed by our local school boards. I don't think we need, this is separate from the motion. I don't think we need a meeting. We just need more clarification and communication because people are talking about it. Home builders are talking about it. So I think exactly what Candace said, we need to be kept in the loop other than, you know, having to go through the invitation from the school board and looking at what they're doing.
Well, yeah, okay, so is that a motion all right for you, Candace, that you can kind of critique it a bit, or?
We're fine. That's a good enough motion. Yeah. I
All
think
right.
we know what she wants to say.
Do I have a seconder then for that motion? Okay, Councillor Walsh, who would like to speak about the motion then at this time? Any other comments? All right, I guess my comment would be is that when, shoot, I had something there, but it just had to do with the fact that the cost that for us, as far as staff are concerned, so we have to separate that out. We also have to write checks. We have to sign checks going forward to them. We have to, like, there's a lot of stuff in behind the scenes that our staff are going to have to put in on this. And where do we get any of that back? Like, I don't.
You don't.
You don't. Yeah. There's no recovery mechanism in place to recoup the administrative burden and the administrative costs that it's going to put on the municipalities. It's just, it'll become part of the new process.
That's the big battle that we have right now. When you collect development charges from a certain municipality, half the time that money doesn't even get spent back in the municipality. Like if they were going to be fixing up the Norwood High School or the Catholic school or the public school and adding a huge wing from collecting development charges, I could help them justify the fact even more if it's going to help something in our area for expansion because of the amount of people coming. But having just a money grab like that, that to me, that's not right, unless there's really good information coming forward to us to let us know what's going to happen behind the scenes. So,
well, that is policy change. So, Mr. Mayor, if you'd like to see policy change, then that would require correspondence back to the province. So this is what happens when you have these larger entities such as Peterborough County, that's a larger geographical area that encompasses other municipalities within it and infrastructure within it. This conversation is almost automatic. The same conversation that we have in regards to the Peterborough County development charges and the fact that a pittance gets spent in those municipalities that are actually generating the growth, the exact same conversation is going to happen with the school boards because they're a large geographical area and they are allowed to approach their DC policy in a way as we get to look at our infrastructure as a whole. Where does the infrastructure dollars need to be spent as a whole? And as long as they can have a background study and an infrastructure assessment study that supports that, that doesn't have to go back into those towns, villages, or municipalities that are actually experiencing the growth pressures. And that requires a policy change because essentially there should be a certain percentage, I'm not saying as a whole, but there should be a forced percentage under the Development Charge Act, under the Planning Act that says that money needs to go back into the municipalities that are experiencing the growth pressures, not just through convenient wordsmithing of a background study and an infrastructure assessment report. And that's exactly what's happening. So our new homeowners are sending tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars up to larger entities, such as now a school board or an upper tier. And it's great for you, Asphodel-Norwood, good for your staff, good for your council for promoting growth, because thanks to you, I just got a new road, or I just got a new bridge, or I just got a new wing on my school, and not one single person who bought a new home in Norwood is going to use it.
Yeah.
And that requires policy change at the province. So if we're going to advocate for anything, provincial policy change and change the DC Act so that growth, if you wanted to pay for growth, put it back in the municipalities that are experiencing the growth pressures.
That's exactly what I was trying to say. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Is there any other comments to the motion? Seeing no hands, then all in favor. All right, that's carried. Thank you, Madam Clerk. You have that. Very good. All right, now we're on to delegations and presentations. So this report has got to do with council remuneration market review final report. But not good with the big words today, I guess. Candace, I'll allow you to introduce our guest, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So with us today, we have Jane Mazansky from Gallagher and Associates, and she is the author of the compensation remuneration report for council that was included in your package today. And she's going to be sharing her screen in order to present her market review and findings and recommendations to council to govern remuneration for all of you moving forward. Hi, Jane. Thank
Hi.
you.
Okay. All right. I now know more about development charges than I did before. I don't have capacity to share the screen yet, so. Oh, there we go. Okay, are we up and running here?
Yep, we can see you.
Okay, let me just make everyone else bigger too. Okay, thank you very much for the time on your agenda to review the council remuneration review and the final report that we've completed for the township. Get my fingers working here. So essentially, as an overview of the project, we were retained to assess the remuneration and the expense practices for the elected official of the town elected officials of the township as compared to the municipalities of similar size and scope of responsibilities. Some of the things that we take into consideration when we are looking at remuneration for elected officials is we really want to make sure as best as possible that the compensation will reflect their respective roles, which is to be representative of their constituents and to be members of the governing body for the township. Recognizing the time commitments that's required as a result of these roles that you have. We want to make sure that it's fair and reasonable, very loosely defined words, but concepts of fair and reasonable relative to similar organizations. And then we want to make sure, of course, that the remuneration is still, financially sustainable for the municipality and that it's reasonable given the rest of the organization. So the report that we have provided outlines our findings and our observations from the review. Background to the assignment in terms of when we came into the project, we had a conversation with Candace, and we understand that there were previous market reviews that had indicated the township remuneration was low to the market comparator organizations. At that time, whatever year that was, I believe it might have been 2017 or 18, there was a market pay policy that was established that says you're going to pay at the P55 or the 55th percentile, meaning that you're going to be just a little bit ahead of the middle of the market ground. The implementation or the recommendations that came out of your previous review, you had a phased implementation approach as opposed to just adjusting all of the salaries to the P55 market placement. And it resulted in incremental changes that you've had over the last couple of years. While that's going on, the municipal sector, we're finding we're doing quite a number of council reviews across the province in the last couple of years. Again, focusing on fair remuneration for the work of the time commitments. We're also understanding, and as previous conversation happened, the complexity of the issues that are being dealt with by council has changed dramatically from the good old days of looking at street lights and park benches. The issues are very complex. There are a lot of economic issues, development issues, social issues as well. And when you're taking into consideration the complexity of those issues, it increases the amount of time you have to spend on looking at your reports, your agendas, packages going into council. And you're making decisions that have lasting impacts on your communities as well. Municipal councils are also looking to improve the diversity of candidates within the electorate that are putting their names forward for running for council. This is a little bit of a difficult one because pay is not necessarily the driving factor in terms of, am I going to run for municipal council? Or it's really not about, hey, you're going to pay me 20,000, but that's not necessarily the driving force. But having said that, we still want to make sure that it's fair and recognizes that you are doing a job. And we want to make sure that the pay is not a barrier as well to people standing for election. So in terms of all of that background, we sat down, we had a look over your comparator organizations, giving consideration to what you used in the previous reviews, what makes sense in terms of how your organization has changed and how your comparator groups have changed as well. So we had a list of 8 municipal comparators. We did invite Crammy and Senator Hastings as well to participate in the review, but for whatever reason, we did not hear back from them after several times of trying to contact them. Greater Madawaska, pardon me, I think it's Madawaska Valley, one of them, they didn't actually participate in the review, but they did have their council remuneration bylaw posted on their website. So we used that data as our to supplement our information. We developed a survey questionnaire to solicit the comparators for base remuneration for each of the 3 roles. If they have all 3 roles, we wanted to know about the per diems that are paid. Do you pay per diems for additional council meetings or special meetings of council, any other committee meetings, and then per diems for conferences as well. We asked them about what are the allowable expenses in terms of other cash allowances for travel, for conferences, for administrative supports or technology supports as well. Then we also wanted to explore what kind of benefits are being offered to elected officials. And if you are being offered insured benefits, is there a cost sharing of the premiums available? So we took all of that information from our comparator responses and tabulated the results, which is the end result that we have presented today. Using the pay policy that you currently have, which is the 55th percentile, we looked at the base remuneration, and the base remuneration, giving it is due credit that it is generally identified to recognize the time that's required to attend your council meetings and do all of your constituency work. So the town of Asphodel-Norwood is, as you can see here, you're not even hitting the market median. So your market pay policy is P55, and you are significantly below that target pay policy across all 3 of the different positions. So not even making the P50, you're further behind on the P55 as well. The base increases, you have already implemented it once we did the study, which was all based on 2021 data. So we added up or incorporated the changes that were made already for 2022. And even using that as the base for comparison, even though there was some significant increases to the base pays for all 3 roles, you're still showing as low to the market. There is still a gap to the 2021 market rate, never mind updating the comparator data to 2022. So although there has been some improvement on the councillor pay, you are now within a plus or minus 5% of that market data point. But for the mayor and deputy mayor role, you are still significantly below market. Just in terms of gauging how we say, are you aligned to the market or are you not? We use plus or minus 5%. So if you're within that range, we say you're competitive or you're aligned to the marketplace, because it's not going to be an absolute on all cases that you can define the roles and the comparison information. If you are beyond or over 10% gap to market, either on the high side or the low side, then that's a significant gap to market. If this was a staff review, we would be saying that if you are 20% over the market or under the market, pardon me, then you have a significant risk for losing those staff. Now, council is not recruited in the same respect, but just as by way of illustrating what the significance is when we look at the gap to market, it does say that there's a misalignment to your comparator organizations and their tolerance and their ability to pay the base salaries for council, deputy mayor, and mayor. Another thing that we look at in terms of compensation reviews is what's the difference between one position and another, on the understanding that as you progress from one position, in this case it would be the councillor, you go from councillor to deputy mayor and deputy mayor to mayor, and you look at that progression, assuming that there's more responsibility with each role. We want to make sure that there is some distinction between one role to the next. So we take what we call the differential between the different pays. In our report, I think you can see that there's a couple of municipalities where the differential is quite narrow, only 2%. So in that instance, they're saying that the difference between their councillor and their deputy mayor, they're not seeing enough difference in the role and responsibility to warrant a higher pay or a more significant gap. There's nothing here that says that your differentials are bad or are significantly off market, but we just provide it as another test of the information. In terms of moving off of the base pay, the other payments that are available, we did not have any per diems paid across any of the comparator organizations for council meetings, special committees, or any other ad hoc working groups. So its base pay is the remuneration for all of the council work. However, when attending a conference, there are practices across the municipal sector that will pay a per diem, in addition to paying for the conference fees and the registration and the accommodations and the meals. Some municipalities will pay a per diem to cover the loss of income potentially that you might have by taking yourself away for a period of 1 or 2 or 3 days to attend the conference. So in this instance, this is the one area where the actual your township is higher than what the median or the P55 rate of the comparator organizations are. So you're doing well on the per diem for conference fees. Travel expenses paid for traveling within the municipality or beyond the municipal borders. There are some municipalities that will pay for the travel expense that you are incurring to go from your home to your council meetings and back. It's not widespread across the municipal sector, but typically it is travel outside of the municipal boundaries. Your kilometer rate, it's based on the County of Peterborough's rate, which is based on CRA. That is what we do tend to see across the sector. Your specific comparator group is a little bit lower than that, but it could be in part because the timing that we completed the review, that they hadn't yet updated their rates to a new CRA rate. Council members, in terms of insured benefits, you do not have access to insured benefits as members of the township, but you do have out-of-country insurance policy that is available to you. No dental, no health. There are a number of comparator organizations that do make this offering to their municipal elected officials. And in some cases, or in most cases, I believe it is 100% paid in terms of the premiums. And then in a few instances, there's a 50% cost sharing of the premiums to take that benefit. Technology assets, we do inquire about whether you are required to purchase your own technology or if it's provided by the municipality. So in this instance, pretty well across the sector at the lower tier, the technology is made available. There are some arrangements where, you know, if the upper tier offers to pay for it or the lower tier offers to pay for it, there'll be some, obviously not some double provisions there. So we do have the assets that are available, laptops available to all members, and the cell phone typically is restricted as a benefit offering to the mayor role. There is an additional benefit allowance as well in lieu of the cell phone that is being provided to the mayor. So your township does provide a stipend or an allowance. It's not on the large side, but it is a stipend in recognition that you do have to incur additional data plan usage or what have you on your cell phones, personal cell phones. So in terms of the recommendations, obviously the biggest concern in looking at all of the information is the actual base salary. So we are making a recommendation to close that gap to the comparator markets. These are significant increases, and I do recognize that. But we are at least saying you're not at P55, you're not even at P50. So we are making a recommendation to help temper the jump to the median, so lower than your current pay policy, and also with a little bit of a lag time. So we're saying to the P50 of the 2021 market comparator information. And that would be for the mayor and the deputy mayor roles to close that gap. If we ran the numbers again with as a comparison to 2022 market comparator data, your gap would still be there though. We are saying that now, as a result of your 2022 adjustments, that your councillor base pay is aligned a little closer to the marketplace. So we're saying maintain that council base pay. And then there's also a practice that you have where you have, I believe it's part of your phase-in approach that came off of the previous reviews, where you were applying a 2% increase each year. So it was a static number that was being considered. So we're suggesting that in order to make sure that you stay in alignment with inflation and costs that are being addressed in other comparator organizations, that you consider looking at whatever increase your staff of the municipality are receiving, which is often based on CPI or an assessment of the comparator organizations each year. But we're suggesting that you may be aligned to that practices as an alternative to a flat percentage increase each year. And then we've also suggested that you do explore what would be the cost to offer or extend the insured benefits program to the council members, whether it be at 100% cost of the premiums being paid by the municipality or a 50% cost sharing program. We do make this recommendation in terms of exploring the costs and for consideration perhaps in a future year or in future council, because we think that the significant gap to the base remuneration is more important to address at this point in time than the insured benefits program. I believe that's the last, that's it. Okay, questions?
Okay, thank you very much for that, Jane. Nobody likes to talk about giving yourself a raise, but now's the time to start talking. We know our township in the past has been way down below, and we did try to make some adjustments as time went on. But I think this is a great time now to talk about it before the next election. So then that would help the next term of council out going forward. So Councillor War, I seen your hand, please.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mayor, I'll start off the conversation. I was just wondering with the comparators of the other municipalities, did each of those also have a water system and sewage system? Is that the comparators? I was just curious of why we didn't use maybe some of the municipalities that were close, like we did use Havelock, Belmont, Methuen, but Durrell, Dummer, Otonabee, South Monaghan, or North Kawartha, which all have similar population bases.
We didn't take into consideration the water or wastewater. We did more focus on what were your past comparators and population information, household information, and geographic considerations. Candace?
Yeah, I just want to state that the past comparators were chosen based on water and wastewater. So that is built into the comparators that were given to Jane based on our comparators that were used for the township staff salary grid. We felt it was important, or I felt it was important, that the comparators for township staff should be the comparators for township council. It should be relatively the same. And source water protection and the liability that goes with standard of care on councils is probably one of the main drivers for liability of your decision making. So when we chose the comparators that was used for the township salary grid, water and wastewater was heavily a factor into that decision. And so the comparators that were chosen for the township staff salary grid that drove the comparators for Jane were actually water and wastewater. Was it the only driver? No, but definitely one of the main drivers. Standard of care is a huge portion of what you guys do as far as responsibility is concerned. And those municipalities that Councillor War mentioned do not have their own municipally owned water and wastewater other than Autonomy South Monaghan, which is very, very, very tiny in comparison to ours. So they don't have the standard of care legislation and liability on them.
Good question. Any other question on that or any comment, Paula?
No, for me, it was just more of the population and the proximity that were in our county as well. That was the only reason I was asking, perhaps why they weren't considered in the report. I think the report was well done. I think we all, it's a difficult conversation to have, and it's one that was that we had at the first part of our term. And I know, with a new election coming up, that it's going to be a topic for the next council as well.
Thank you. Good comment. Deputy Mayor Burt, I seen your hand.
Yeah, thank you through you, Mayor. Thank you very much for the report, Jane. Very, very in-depth and at the same time easy to get through and easy to read. Yeah, I'm just echoing what has been said by our mayor and Councillor War. We don't like looking at this. We don't like talking about our wages. This is not the reason we got on council, and I'm sure that's the case, mostly across the board when it comes to municipalities. So I guess my question is the process for this discussion. Are we looking, I guess this is through the guidance of council and some thoughts from Candace as well. Are we looking at discussing this and putting this forward for our next term of council? Are we looking at trying to make a decision within the next, council meeting or the next month? Is this something that we're going to wait for the next term of council to make a decision? I'm just looking at the process and the timeline and what the key recommendations are coming out of this. I know we're sitting in a position that is probably not sustainable to attract more people. So I'm looking for some guidance in what this looks like going forward with the process and the timeline.
Go ahead, Candace.
So the recommendation, I believe, is to implement a correction in 2022 and able to get council to P50. The cost of aligning, the cost of the recommendation of Gallagher's would be approximately $8,500 for 2022. The bylaw would have to be updated. So the motion would have to direct staff to bring back a council remuneration bylaw that would adjust to this. The 2022 budget has been adopted and enacted, and it did not include the $8,500 correction. That said, we could bring forward a bylaw that would enact it to 2023. You could also retroactive it back to January 1 of 2022. So those are your options. It would take a bylaw, an update to the remuneration bylaw. The recommendation is it's a 2022 correction for the mayor and deputy mayor role to P50, which is $8,500 cost.
And just further up on that, because we have already passed the budget, where do these monies come from? Were this bylaw to be created and passed?
It would come out of the tax base. It would come out of the tax base. So as you know, at year end, we would take a look. There's a general government reserve, which has 138,000. That would be my recommendation to come out of there if the surplus at the end of the year couldn't eat it.
Okay, sorry, that's what I was wondering. What line does this come out of? So, okay, thank you.
It would hit your council member fee. So when you see your quarter variances, it would hit the council member fee GL. And then obviously that would be overstated as of December 31st, over budget by $8,500. And then obviously that would be determined through the surplus, whether we'd actually have to pull from reserves or not. And that would be known at year end.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you through you, Mayor. So just to clarify, so if we waited until the next budget, that would be tabled in, it would be the next council that would be approving that budget if we waited, and they would adopt it in December like we did for the previous budget for 2022, right? So the other option would be to wait and have whoever's the newly elected council adopt that with the budget for 2023.
That is an option. My only suggestion would have been that I would have recommended then that this study been taken on by the new council then, because then
Right.
it's going to be a year old. And then, I mean, you can push the recommendation, but this council decided to spend the funds to have the study done, to then push the decision onto the new council, which then my recommendation would have been to have allow the new council to then make the decision to take on the study or not.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, just to follow up through you, Mayor, but at least they would have a report to go on, and the recommendations, there would be a report that anyone that was newly elected would be able to look at a report with the recommendations as well. I'm just throwing it out there, that's all.
Councillor Archer, you had your hand up.
Yeah, part of my question was answered by Candace, but I feel that we have to deal with this because I wouldn't want to be say it was a new councillor and having to take this on, because you're already behind. If you wait till 2023, the other townships, the mayor and deputy mayors will be getting a raise the 1st of the January 2023, and we'll already be behind again before. And I think that's too much to put on a new council. We should be dealing with it now.
Right. Go ahead, Councillor Walsh, and you're muted, sir.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. I'm kind of just aligned to what Councillor Archer is saying. Is we made the commitment that we wanted to be at least, target of P55, which is still considerably less than a lot of other townships. As we all said, we're not here for the money. If we delay this, we're just going to fall further behind. Because what all the great work that Jane and our team have done is going to be outdated by the time new council comes around to making a decision. I look at it from the standpoint from the mayor's position, it's a $5,000 increase. That only puts us at P50 when we were already kind of aligned that we wanted to go to P55. So we're already on the low end. And the other recommendation on the deputy mayor is about a $3,600 per year. Again, that only puts us at P50 versus, our thought was to get us to P55. I'm comfortable with the two recommendations that Jane has made. Yes, it's $8,650 we need to find, but I also look at the amount of work that our mayor and deputy mayor do, as well as Bill. I'm comfortable with the council. I think we are at a rate that makes us comparative to other neighboring comparators. So I'm comfortable with updating the bylaw now. I can't say we need to go back retroactive, but if we can adopt it to take place effective April 1st or whatever the next pay date is, I'm comfortable supporting a motion like that.
All right. Before I ask for a motion, we'll maybe have a bit more discussion just in case.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyone else have any other comments? Okay, I had a comment then. I guess in Jane's report there too, it talked about the, I may be wrong on the acronym, but a CPI to align with a flat percentage each year to correspond with what staff get, I guess, too. That's like the cost of living increase. Is that right, Jane?
Correct. correct. It's just to make sure that if I mean, obviously inflation is very high right now. So if other municipalities are using CPI, which they are, they're adjusting their salaries to the high side. So then if you do not, if you stick with a 2% flat rate across the board, then you're going to be lagging the market even more over time.
Yeah, over time. That's exactly right. Each year we'll be down the 2% as it goes on. So I will reiterate the fact what Deputy Mayor Burt said, that we weren't elected actually for the money. We were elected because we thought we could do better and help staff make this township a shining star in the county. And we've done that, and good job by all, I would have to say. I will also say though that my duties as mayor for Asphodel-Norwood with COVID have not really been that excessive. I mean, my county duties have been over the top with different volunteering for different committees that we're on that we don't actually get paid for at this time. But that was our choice that we took. I do know as mayor, without COVID restrictions, there's different functions that you take place with, and different committees that you would go to that they're having functions and one thing after another that way too, as well as just even signing checks, taking time out to do that, and away you go. But I did notice that my wages, as far as, I guess this is kind of personal, but the fact is that the business itself has suffered with mayor duties going forward. So I mean, like, if there is a way to catch some of that up again for the next mayor or whoever may be there, they would probably, if they were working too, would probably find the loss as far as they're going too. And I imagine Deputy Mayor Burt, you've noticed the same with your wages too, from a home-based business idea. So anyway, any other comments at this time? Staff or Jane, any comments anyone wants to say at this time? All right, Deputy Mayor Burt, please.
Yeah, thank you. And also in the report, it had mentioned about looking at the health benefits, dental and healthcare at 50% or 100%. I think that's important going forward. I don't, I certainly wouldn't want it right now, this term of council, but I think that's a report that needs to be looked at for the next term of council moving forward. I do think that's important. Some people, many people on council are self-employed. They have their own businesses, so therefore they don't have the healthcare benefits. In some cases they do. So it might be something to take a look at, even at a 50% rate. That's my opinion on the health and dental benefits. So I think it's worth looking at as we head into the next term of council.
Any comments on Candace from that point of view? So if Barry was hinting at making a motion going forward with the recommendations from our consultant, but as far as how Deputy Mayor brought in the fact about the health and benefits, is that somehow that would be critiqued into the motion to be looked at the beginning of next council or the next budget year?
As council knows, the benefit package renews in November of each year. I could include a provisional item, which would be optional to get the costing at the renewal time to add counselors, whether that, and I can give all this, we can ask for all of the scenarios, whether it be 50%, 100%, and the coverage types. And then that could come forward at renewal time. So we have the information. Obviously, the new council is not going to be making the decision at the renewal time. It'll be this council, but we can always add throughout a renewal period. It doesn't have to, new coverage doesn't have to be added at the time of renewal, but the renewal will be timely because at least it'll be fresh and current pricing in November in time for the new council to consider. So Mayor, to answer your question, I would say you just have to include in the motion to direct staff to include council in the employee benefit renewal package in November of 2022 for the 2023 year. Again, that is just to have it costed, to bring it back for a further decision by the new council.
All right, thanks. So I'm looking then, any other discussion or questions or comments from anyone? All right, Councillor Walsh, you hinted at a motion there earlier.
Yeah, I will, I'll gladly table a motion on the floor, at least for discussion, that we will proceed with Jane's recommendation to adjust the mayor to the medium P50 with a new rate of 27,272. Deputy mayor to a P50 rating of 22,292. Effective date, Candace, I'm gonna need your help a little bit here. Can we go like next page?
You can say as of, you can back it up to March 1st, or you can then April paid for March, or you can do it April 1, whatever you'd like. We would be fine with either. You get paid once a month, so it's easy.
Okay, go April 1.
Sure.
And then just add in that we will direct staff to include council and the benefits renewal package review in November.
Can we also say that you direct staff to bring back the correlating bylaw, because we need a bylaw to
Okay.
actually enact this at the March 22nd meeting.
Okay, and then to bring back an updated bylaw for our next council meeting. Did I miss anything?
I'm not sure, did the CPI thing with the 2% get added in on that in your motion, or?
We can address that in the bylaw. I mean, the language is already in our current bylaw, but it didn't state CPI. It was a flat rate, but again, that bylaw was enacted back when we weren't seeing the inflation rates where 2% was covering it nicely. So you were seeing the 2% each year, but obviously what the world is presenting right now, that may not be enough. So if we just have CPI language to match what the staff salary grid is, so a blanket kind of language. So it's already in the current bylaw, we'll just update it, that's fine.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. Otherwise we'd have to go back and redo all this all over again next year, so, or new council, okay.
Yeah, just a question for clarification, as this is just P50 for 2022, because budget is already adopted. The bylaw could enact that you go to P55 for 2023, and then it's done. Just throwing that out there.
I'm comfortable with that, to put that into the motion, because that does get us to where we ultimately want to be. At least we correct this year to P50 and move it to P55 for 2023. You get all that, Melanie? Sorry.
I think just for clarification, Candace, I know I like to put you on the spot, and you're very good at getting out of that. But if you want to help clarify Barry's motion for the seconder, so because we still need a seconder on this yet too, so clarification.
You want me to restate his entire motion?
If you can, sure.
Okay, that the Council of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood approves the recommendations from Gallagher and Associates to implement a P50 rate for the mayor at 27,272 for the 2022 year, and a P50 rate of $22,292 for the 2022 year. And further, that staff be directed to include council in the employee benefit renewal package in November of 2022 for consideration of the new council. And further, that staff be directed to bring back an updated bylaw to reflect these changes at the March 22nd meeting of council, and for the bylaw to include the following provisions: a CPI annual provision, as well as a provision that the 2023 remuneration of council will reflect a P55 rate. I don't know what that's going to be at this time, so
Sure. Okay,
I can't
you.
state those amounts, but
So Councillor Walsh has made the motion. Do we have a seconder then? Councillor Archer. Is there any other discussion on the motion before I call for a motion? Deputy Mayor Burt, please first.
Thank you. Just a quick comment. I think this is wise for us to do this now. I remember we did this very early on in our term of council. All of us were, or I guess 3 of us were new. It was a very uncomfortable situation. It's still an uncomfortable situation, but I think this is a good decision moving forward for the next term of council, that they don't have to tackle this within their first month or so, or at least the majority of it. So that's just my comment. I don't have any further questions.
Thank you. Councillor Walsh, please.
Yeah, just lastly, wonder if I can just request a recorded vote on this, please.
Okay, Councillor Walsh has asked for a recorded vote. Allow the clerk to take a minute to get her notes in order. And you're muted, Candace. Thanks.
Okay, so everyone is clear on the motion. I do not need to state it again. Oh, okay.
You're amazing.
Councillor Walsh has requested a recorded vote, so the motion is on the floor. Councillor Walsh,
Yes.
Councillor War,
Yes.
Councillor Archer,
Yes.
Mayor Bonneau,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Burt.
Yes.
Motion is unanimous and is carried.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Jane. Your hard work is going to pay us off, I guess. Is that how you'd want to say it?
Fair and
Anyway.
equitable remuneration.
Yeah, that's a big word for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
All right, tough decisions made all around, council. So next on the agenda then would be our staff and committee reports. So R1 would be Ed Whitmore, our Chief Building Official and Planning Coordinator. And this report is a consent file B12-22 in brackets night. Ed, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. Okay, just a little background. Pretty much the exact same application was brought forward a year ago, or a couple of years ago in 2018. And it was made by Maurice Knight, and same as today, the application is made by Maurice Knight. There's a total of 2 lots. This consent deals with Lot A. So consent B86-18, that was submitted and approved. Township recommended it. The county approved it back in April of 2019. There was some conditions on there that they would have to rezone to the satisfaction of the township. And that condition was never fulfilled. It was never applied for. Mr. Knight at the time told me that he did not want to do that. And so then he let the application lapse. And it was canceled. And so now he's reapplied to do the exact same thing all over again, and has submitted a new application, B12-22, and it's for the exact same size, 25 meters of frontage on County Road 40, and it's about 0.26 hectares, so it's all about 0.66 of an acre. Due to the size of it, it's going to be perfect, and the shape of it, it'll be perfect for a multi-residential unit, like a four unit row house or a 6-unit row house, somewhere around there. So it's going to be good. It's going to meet density requirements. It's going to create more diverse housing for the township. So it is a good thing. It's not a great thing to have to go through it twice, but it's a good thing to do it again and get it done. The retained lands will be about 30 meters of frontage left on County Road 40 and an area of about 2.5 hectares. So that's a little over 6 acres. The retained lands and this Lot A, and then the following severance that we're going to do will all have a shared common entrance. And so that was one of the conditions by of the county that they asked for, or they will be asking for. I see in their comments, and I always thought that they should have their own individual one at one time when he was planning on doing condominiums, and then really doesn't matter whether they have a common entrance or whether they have 3 entrances along there. It's a nice flat part. It's 50 kilometers an hour. Whatever works for the owner and whatever works for the county works for us too. So it does. So the severed lands, they're going to be required to be rezoned to from residential 1 to residential 2, and that'll allow a multi-unit residential building. And the reason that we're requesting that is because we wouldn't want to be creating residential lots that are really big. So if we're going to create oversized lots, we want them to have multi-residential units on them. And so we reviewed all the pertinent information, and we attached the notice of application and the consent application itself. And then our municipal appraisal form is the very last page in the report. And we recommend it with rezoning the severed parcel to the satisfaction of the municipality. And so if approved as is, when I send this off to Ann Hamilton of the county, I'll also advise that it'll need to have that common entrance deeded on their, as part of their deed, just so that we don't have a piece of land landlocked. Because you know how you do in the olden days, they do a 1 foot reserve or 0.3 of a meter reserve along the entire frontage of the severed parcel. That's what the county has recommended again. So that would create a landlocked piece of land. That's why we'll have that common entrance deeded in their description. And I think that's about it.
Great comment, Ed. Thanks. That's why you're our planning coordinator, sir. You take all those little thoughts into consideration, and you actually help people get the job done. So council, pretty straightforward. We've been here before. Any comments or concerns on this? All right, seeing no hands then we need a motion for this particular one on R1 then, that we receive this for information and that we direct staff to provide the municipal appraisal form to the County of Peterborough Land Division. So I need that motion. Councillor War, seconded by Deputy Mayor Burt. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing no hands, all in favor? That's carried. So R2, Ed, this is a consent file again, B-13-22, in brackets night, and this is for the other property that you mentioned is a B property, you said.
Yes, and so I'll just whip through this pretty quick. It's exactly the same as the previous application. Council seen this before, and it was approved in, or it was the application was 8718 back in the day. It was approved in 2019. They didn't fulfill the conditions, so they let it lapse, and they've reapplied. So B1322 is a piece of land having 33 meters of frontage on County Road 40. That's about 110 feet, and an area of about 2.25 hectares, and that's 0.63 acres. They're creating a new residential lot with a shared right-of-way or common entrance. And the retained lands is exactly the same. It was as before, 100 feet frontage on County Road 40 and a little over 6 acres in size. The only condition we will have is the severed lands will be required to be rezoned from residential 1 to residential 2. And that's just for multi-residential units going on. And that's it, unless you have any questions.
Sure, council, any questions on this report? All right, seeing no hands, then the motion would be that for information, and then we direct staff to provide the municipal appraisal form to the County of Peterborough Land Division. Motioned by Councillor Walsh, seconded by Councillor War. thanks. Any other discussion on the motion? See no hands, all in favor. That's carried. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ed. Appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. I'll be leaving the meeting now.
Okay, sir. Bye.
Right.
R3 then is Candace White, our CAO Clerk Treasurer, and this is regarding our 2021 Annual Building Department Road Report as amended.
Thank you, Mayor. So council's seen this report and at a previous council meeting, and during the 2021 year-end review, there was some development charges that hit this general ledger. So going back to the discussion earlier, when a building permit is issued, lots of revenue lines are impacted. So building permit revenue fees, entrance fees, county development charges, township development charges, maybe a water meter fee, et cetera, et cetera. So they have to be all broken out when the check is received through the front end, and each general ledger revenue line receiving the appropriate amount. So it was an allocation issue. Year end caught the error. It has since been corrected. So a new annual financial report needed to be brought forward to council for your for your information, and to ensure that we're allocating the correct amount for the reserve, so we can put this up on the website as per the legislation. So the building department, obviously not a huge impact to the department overall, just want to make sure that the pennies are checked and balanced. But at the end of the day, the building reserve will have $721,565.60 for the building department. As you can see in the report, township staff is considering an electric vehicle for this department that would be refunded out of that $720,000. So obviously the department is definitely self-funded and does not require any monies from the tax base to operate.
Great. What a good concept, an electric vehicle in today's $2 a liter world.
Might take us a year to get it, but
Yeah. Good idea, though. I mean, we've discussed about the building department having a vehicle other than their own at one time years ago. Anyway, I remember that too. So, is that something? Just a question. Then, is that something that all of the staff at the municipal office would be able to take use of? Yeah.
Yes.
Very
Yeah.
good. All right. Any questions or concerns on R3, the annual building department report? Questions, comments? Anyone like to? You've heard the motion from our CAO. I can reiterate it if you'd like. All right, motioned by Councillor Walsh, seconded by Councillor Archer. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing no, all in favor then. That's carried. Thank you. R4, Candace, again, please. This report is regarding Truth and Reconciliation Day.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is a follow-up report, if council remembers, back in December when we discussed the 2022 municipal stat holidays and municipal office closure dates. It was decided at that time that this report would be put on the action list. So it was put on the action list for a staff report. Township staff have asked about this day. It was mentioned to council at that time, and council requested that it go on the action list, which it did. And so township staff had the time and ability to prepare the staff report, and it is for township council for their consideration. A couple of questions have come in, pretty standard questions. As we all know, this is a federal stat holiday. The province has not at this point in time adopted Truth and Reconciliation Day as a recognized statutory holiday for provincial employees. That said, it is leaving. It says the province has put it out there that they are looking at each employer to make their own decision as to whether they wish to recognize this day as a statutory holiday or not. That said, our neighboring unionized municipalities are looking to have this discussion during their collective agreement updates. So I'm not sure the timing of each. I didn't poll all the municipalities to see when all of their collective agreements come due as to when they're going to be looking at this discussion. Unless council wants me to, I don't know what their collective agreement schedules are. There has been some questions put forward since the agenda was released in regards to what would be the requirement of township staff if this was put forward. I'm torn, I'll be honest with you in regards to that. There is no other statutory holiday, whether that's Boxing Day, Easter Monday, Remembrance Day, the civic holiday in August, where I, as an employer, put in restrictions as to how the staff spend that day. I don't know if that's something that I want to govern. That said, I understand the desire to potentially be recognizing the day and for the intent into which the day is given. So it's not just perceived as yet, as it was put to me, quote unquote, another day off. So that said, we are neighbors to Hiawatha First Nations. There is a CAO meeting scheduled for March 18th. It would be my recommendation that we support teachings and activities that are happening on our First Nation local communities versus trying to spearhead our own and recognize that day in a way that we feel appropriate. I feel that they are the First Nations communities and building relationships with them. We're close enough proximity. We should be supporting them in their initiatives on that day. That is my personal opinion. If it's council's direction that we need to come up with our own activities or way to locally represent that day, I would suggest that we do it in consultation with the First Nations communities as how they like to see the day represented and what they would like to see happening on that day. I think that's more important than how we feel the day should be recognized. So again, it was asked to be put on the action list for discussion versus it being adopted during the regular 2022 statutory holiday schedule. So here it is. And I will leave it for council for discussion. I am getting text messages from Deputy Mayor Burt. She lost hydro at home and she's trying to connect via her hotspot.
Yeah, I was going to make note of that for the clerk that 2:13, I believe, when she dropped out. And now she's back at 2:16. So we were just discussing that. Councillor War, you had a comment about this report.
Yes, thank you. Through you, I'll start off the discussion. I also have mixed feelings just because I feel that it is such an important day that I think that the province should have taken the lead on this holiday. And it should be a holiday for not, and holiday is the wrong word. It's an important day that should be all workplaces should be able to have. And it's hard when it's a government agency that has repressed First Nations for a long time, and we're making it holiday for staff. I know it's a difficult conversation. That's how I feel. I think it's a really important day to appreciate, and I'll leave it for more discussion.
Perfect. Anyone else have a comment on this at this time? Councillor Walsh, please.
Yeah, through you, Mayor, and I'm going to kind of echo what Councillor Warris said and what our CEO has said. It's tough to decide what is the best thing to do. I am aligned to the idea that if we know with neighboring First Nation communities that they do have activities going on, that to me, if we do decide to recognize this day, it would be, in my mind, making our staff aware of activities that are available in local First Nation communities versus us trying to do something on our own. I am aligned to the fact that yeah, there's a concern that what we think we should be doing may not be what they actually would prefer to have us doing. So I think if we do decide to support this day, just let's make everybody aware of that there are activities going on that day in neighboring First Nation communities, and just go and participate if you wish.
Good comment. Deputy Mayor Burt, you had your hand up, and welcome back.
Yeah, sorry about that. My hydro just went out and I lost all my internet. So thankfully it came back on. I missed part of that conversation, but I did get in on what Councillor Ward had stated. And I am somewhat in agreement. It is too bad that this decision didn't come down from the province. And I do think, as she said, that a stat holiday may not be the word, but I think reaching out to our First Nations and communities and getting input is very important moving forward before a decision is made one way or the other. And that's where I stand. And I apologize because I missed part of the conversation. So
Well, Candace was just reiterating basically what was stated in our agenda, that this is how it took place. She gave us some of her thoughts as to how she thought having something forced on township staff in order to take place on something that we may not be doing right, may not be the right thing to do. So I'm also in agreement with council as far as this is concerned. I do think that it's important for us as a council and township that we do as much as what we can for advertising to say, if you want to take place with this, Hiawatha is sponsoring this, or Curve Lake or somebody like that. And please, if you want, go ahead, take part in it. If that's the case, we can all remember things in our past and going forward in our own way. That's the way I feel ourselves too. We can just have our own thoughts. And anyway, that's all where I'm going with that too. I think it's a good idea, and I'm in favor of it myself. Any other comments or concerns at this time before I ask for a motion? Candace, please.
Yeah, just to help Deputy Mayor Burt. So basically, quickly to recap what I said, how we got here, I don't know if you remember, but back in December, when the 2022 municipal statutory holiday municipal office closure schedule was brought forward, Truth and Reconciliation Day was mentioned, and it was mentioned in the staff report. And I went back and listened to the conversation because we get to have you too. So as to, because it was added to the action list at that time, instead of just making a decision on it then. There was a staff report asked for. So it was added to the action list. So here is a staff report. Here you go. Sometimes be careful what you wish for. So that said, as an employer, I struggle with dictating how staff spend these days. I tend, as an employer, it's going to have me have very interesting conversations, no different than I don't tell people how they should spend other type of holidays, whether that is Remembrance Day, Civic Holiday, Christmas, Easter. People's belief systems come into play here. And I am not about, as an employer, I would rather not recognize the day than dictate how a staff spends that day. You're going to tread into waters if you start doing that. I'm not in support of that at all. That said, I am in support of recognizing if the day is granted, then supporting what First Nations communities are doing already. Trying to mimic or mirror what a First Nation community and how they feel this day should be represented. I struggle with that too. I think we would support them versus trying to host something of our own. They are in close proximity. We need to build relationships there anyway. It needs to happen, to open lines of communication, and us all going there on that day and participating in their events, I think would speak volumes versus us trying to consult with them and come up with something on our own. That said, I don't know how comfortable I am with going with them and saying, hi, how do you feel Asphodel-Norwood should represent this day? And how do you feel about us recognizing this day? I would be more comfortable with, we would love to participate in your day. What do you think that looks like? And how could we participate in your day? That would be more so. So to be honest with you, based on the fact that I was asked to bring forward a staff report, I didn't expect to receive the questions and the direction that council is taking on this. So that said, I would put forward that if council is not going to support it to be a statutory holiday where the staff is allowed to reflect on the day and participate in the day how they feel is best for them as an individual. And we want to have something a bit more structured to get it away from that perceived, oh, we're just giving another holiday because the province hasn't put it in place. Then I would suggest then that it not be given as a statutory holiday, and that as a CAO, I would take it on as an administrator to direct my staff into which departments participate at a neighboring First Nations community on that day, and what staff we can pull, to keep operations going, but how many staff can we pull to go up there to participate, and how many have to stay behind. And that would be an operational decision. Didn't really expect it to be this contentious, to be perfectly honest with you. Otherwise, we should have scrapped it in December.
I didn't think we were asking staff to go anywhere, to be honest with you, but Councillor War.
Yes, I just wanted to clarify what I was saying in case there was any miscommunication, that my disappointment was with the province, that they didn't recognize that all workplaces should be participating and acknowledging the First Nations in this Truth and Reconciliation Day. That was my statement, was that I felt that everyone should be participating. And I just wanted to clarify that in case it was not clear the first time.
Thank you. It wasn't.
Deputy Mayor Burke, please.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think this should come down from the province as well. But here we are, and a decision needs to be made. So, I agree. It should come from elsewhere. Now, Candace, do you? And I feel bad because I don't recall on September 30th what was taking place at Hiawatha or Curve Lake or even Alderville. I'm not aware of any activities or what programs they had available, or, well, given we were still in COVID, they may have been online activities as well. So I was just curious if you knew offhand what had taken place.
I don't know the intimate details of how they celebrate. I know that it was really an Orange Shirt Day push.
Yes.
I do know that there was talk of a parade, but again, with COVID, I don't know if that derailed their plans at the nth hour to have a parade. But I do 100% know in Curve Lake, Hiawatha, and Alderville, the Orange Shirt Day or Truth and Reconciliation Day was definitely celebrated. I suspect or hope that we're going to be out of COVID come September, and so that obviously the celebrations will look much different than what they have in 2021. Again, I don't know what that looks like, but again, it's going to be a topic at our CAO meeting on the 18th of March. I think we're going to be, reaching out and wanting to participate and have kind of like a unanimous approach of pushing what the activities are for them. Again, our neighboring municipalities that have unions, I know that this isn't going to come into play for them in 2022 unless their collective agreement is up for renewal. It's not something that they're going to negotiate in between agreements.
Okay, thank you.
On a note there, I'm not so worried about what other municipalities are doing, other than the fact that we're trying to get along with our neighbors, one thing after another that way too. And this is a good sign of respect going forward as far as Hiawatha, Alderville, Curve Lake. We are in Peterborough County, and I think it's a good day to recognize and do it in our own way, basically. So I don't know, any other discussion or comments at this time? So just for I was just going to have clarification there. Councillor Walsh, go ahead if you want.
So if I could just build on one more comment is, this is a tough one to make. I'm wondering if we simply, as a township council, plan on having some representation at a neighboring Native community to show our support for what is taking place at their place that day. And it just does not become a stat holiday for everybody. That's not to say that somebody still can't take this day off as a vacation day if they so wish to commemorate and remember the day. But we as council put forth an effort to try and have representation at one of our local Native communities on that day to show support.
I think that's just it's a given anyways, Councillor Walsh, that if
Yep.
it's open to the public that way, that a neighboring municipality would take part in that if it's able to. Myself, I do think having this day off is another way of showing respect for the First Nations. I think I wouldn't mind seeing it as that, as it's brought forward in this report for information, and that we do approve it, but it's open for discussion. Obviously, everybody has their own opinions. Any other thoughts, council? All right, I need a motion then, someone. Councillor Walsh, anyone? Go ahead.
I'll gladly put forward a motion that we basically follow the recommendation that's been provided in the staff report, that we receive this for information, and we approve recognizing Truth and Reconciliation Day as a statutory holiday for Township of Asphodel-Norwood employees.
All right, thank you. Do I have a seconder on that? Nope, no seconder.
Okay.
All right, then that's lost. I need a new motion then. Who would like to make another motion then? Somebody has to make a motion.
I'll
Deputy Mayor
attempt it.
Burke?
I'll attempt it. That the Council and Township of Asphodel-Norwood receive the report for information, and that we recognize Truth and Reconciliation Day. And that we recognize, I guess that we recognize it moving forward. Does there have to be any more than that?
No. So we're not going to do it as a statutory holiday. We're just going to recognize that the fact that there's a Truth and Reconciliation Day, basically. Okay. Is there a seconder to that? Councillor War. Is there any other discussion on that motion? And as our clerks need a clarification on that motion? Nope. Okay. So Councillor War, you seconded. Any other discussion or comments? All right. All in favor? There's 3. That's carried then. Okay. Thank you. All right. Next then, R5, Candace White, our CAO Clerk Treasurer. And this is near and dear to everyone's heart if they have any troubles. Renewal of agreement with Dr. Brendan Keogh. Candace, if you want to bring us up to date on that, or anyone that's watching in the public, if you want to give us a little highlight on where we're heading with this report, please.
So Dr. Keogh has been a doctor in the township since 1988. He entered into an agreement with Council of the Day in 2012 that provided provisions for an annual stipend of $25,000 a year, plus the cost of the medical center. So all cleaning, utilities, small repairs, etc. That arrangement has not been looked at since 2012. Dr. Keogh has been satisfied with the agreement. To date, we have helped with random expenses outside of the agreement, such as a new server at the medical center. A few years ago, we did help with that as well. He has reached out and asked that I put forward a request to amend that agreement to increase the cost. It is a fairly substantial increase from $25,000 to $50,000 per year until his retirement. And that is to assist with the increasing cost of providing medical services to the residents. As the staff report says, obviously this can be looked at as downloading because it is a provincial mandate. Again, this is provincial, but the municipality is having to take a look at it. But as we all know, medical services in the community has been identified as one of our main, if not the main priority in our strategic plan. And unfortunately, the province has put all municipalities in a position where you have to unfortunately, take on some of these initiatives and some of these costs to ensure that your local residents are going to be able to receive local medical care. As you know, a new doctor recruiter has been retained, Maria Gomez, who is going to represent the city and the county of Peterborough. A meeting has been arranged between her and myself to discuss medical services in Asphodel-Norwood. I have not been quiet with council as to how that is going to look. There is medical students who come out of school are able to basically pick where they'd like to go. The incentives are huge. It may be naive to think that a certain amount of our healthcare isn't already privatized based on what I'm seeing. So we are seeing where graduates are able to go to these trade shows. There's one held down at the airport by Mississauga, and you go and all of the municipalities are there, and it's come to my municipality, you know, and I can provide you this, I can provide you this. So basically we're in a war to a certain degree in regards to fighting for medical doctors. And it's going to come down to incentives. Obviously we're all in it together. The city of Peterborough is going to have 8 doctors retire in the next little while. So we're not alone in this. But obviously this is a request from Dr. Keogh to ensure that he is comfortable with continue providing medical services for the next few years, and to hopefully we can get a solution in place for the future and the current base, as well as the growth. So I will leave it to council for your decisions. Again, this is a request put forward by Dr. Keogh.
Thank you. Comments, questions? Deputy Mayor Burt, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the report. Yes, we've identified this as one of the top items in our strat plan, and I don't think we have a choice. We do need to support this, and it's a competitive market out there. We have a good family friend who is a doctor in the north, and much of his schooling was paid for, and you can imagine the cost of medical school. So we really, this extra money is simply it really is a drop in the bucket. And I do believe going forward that much of the medical burden will be downloaded to our lower tier municipalities, just in order to have a doctor or a family health team. I shouldn't say a doctor, family health team, because I think that's what it's going to look like down the road. And that's what's going to make it attractive to doctors. So I am in full support of increase in approving this request from Dr. Keogh.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or concerns from council? Councillor Ward, please.
Yes, thank you, through you. I believe that we do need the extra funding. I was just wondering, where would we be pulling the funds to support the extra 25,000 a year? Is that from the tax base, Candace?
Yes, it would be in the tax base, and then the increase, once the new agreement was in place, it would be included in the 2023-2024 budget. So then it would just be a budgetary item from that point forward.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, council? All right, so then the motion basically is that we receive this for information and that we approve the renewing of the agreement with Dr. Keogh for a 3-year term commencing January 1st, 2022 and ending on December 31st, 2024. And further that we amend the section 6 of the agreement between the Township of Asphodel-Norwood and the doctor by increasing the financial supplement to $50,000 annually. And further that the Council of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood directs the clerk to prepare the correlating bylaw and amend the agreement for consideration at a future meeting. Motioned by Deputy Mayor Burt, seconded by Councillor Archer. Is there any other discussion on the motion? Councillor Walsh, please.
Yeah, just one quick clarity, and definitely support this, because this is unfortunately the reality of the medical game these days. So this is with Dr. Keogh. So that kind of, the way I read this, kind of guarantees that unless something drastically changed, he will be here till December of 2024.
That's the
Okay.
hope.
And if for
that's the
some
plan.
reason, he retires, leaves, whatever, we would obviously be into a new arrangement potentially to attract somebody new.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that. All right, so we have a motion and it's duly seconded. Any other questions, comments, concerns? All in favor then, please. And that's carried. Thank you, Candace, and thank you, Council. All right, our sixth then, Candace, would be this reports regarding the management action list. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. So again, we're going to add on March 22nd, we'll add the council remuneration bylaw. Outside of that, you can see what's coming up for the March 22nd and April 12th meetings right into May. You can see there's going to be a public meeting held on March 22nd, and I do suspect we're going to see another public meeting or two in April as well. But pretty standard council business coming ahead. I don't think there's anything there that should surprise you too much. Again, it's really important to take a look at what's coming up on this report. And if you don't want a staff report on an item, this is the opportunity to pull it. So carefully review it. Otherwise, staff moves forward and prepares the reports as this action list provides direction to us. So if something's on here, we have to prepare a staff report on it. So if you don't want a staff report on a particular item, this is your opportunity to remove that. Obviously, there's certain items on here that are put on there by staff because it's operational items, tender awards, things like that. Please don't remove those or we can't do our job. But outside of that, those one-off items, that's what this is for. The ORV and ATV report you see coming up, there was a meeting with Peterborough County staff, so they are asking for kind of council support or direction before some meetings in April. So I'm supposed to be receiving a summary of their recommendations. I haven't seen it yet, but that's supposed to be coming to me so I can prepare a staff report for your consideration to take a look at how we would like to see that moving forward, obviously on the county roads. For ATV use at our March 22nd meeting, unless I don't receive it from their consultant, and maybe it'll be pushed to the first meeting in April. Again, I'm kind of at their mercy. So.
All right, thank you. Okay, so you've had a chance to look at the list. Is there anything that's the one-offs that we don't want staff to worry about right now? Anyone see anything there? No. Any questions, comments, concerns on anything that you can ask now that may come off? No pressure. All right, seeing no hands then, or any comments, then I'm going to ask for a motion then that we accept this report with the revisions suggested by our CEO, clerk treasurer. Please. Motioned by Councillor Walsh, seconded by Councillor Ward. Any other questions, comments, or concerns on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please. And that's carried. Thank you. On in the agenda then is correspondence for action. C5 then is the town of Aurora. This is a request to dissolve the Ontario Land Tribunal. Is there anyone that would like to speak on this at this time, or should we ask the CAO if she'd like to give her words and comments on how that works? Councillor Walsh, please.
Yeah, just through you, Mayor, just a comment. I understand that these sometimes, as we know, can be a painful process to go through, but I still think it still kind of makes sense that we have some sort of mechanism in place, because if we're on the other side and want to be able to make an appeal, just like a land developer wants to make an appeal, by eliminating that, you've kind of lost that mechanism. I'm aligned with, in speaking to Candace on this, I think that there definitely are some areas for improvement as to how they go about this process. I think to totally eliminate it is not the right move. So I would just receive this report, not support. Receive it, but not support it.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Burt, you had your hand up?
I can second that, but I do have a comment and then we can speak to the motion.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that was your motion then. I'm sorry, Councillor Walsh. Then you made that motion.
Yeah, just to receive it.
Okay, and you wanted to second that, Deputy Mayor Burt?
Yeah, with the comment.
All right, go ahead. Speak to the motion.
Yeah, I also reached out to Candace because I think it's important to get staff's perspective because they're the ones that are dealing with this on a day-to-day basis as they go into hearings and that sort of thing. And certainly overhauling the process and how it looks, I think is important. I don't know how we can go ahead and do that, but I'm wondering if Candace has some further observations from a staff and a CAO perspective when it comes to dealing with this group.
Thank you. Candace, you had some thoughts or comments?
I think from my perspective and for whatever it's worth, putting correspondence forward to delete and eliminate a mechanism that is in place that allows the public to be able to appeal a decision is probably not going to get the attention that at the provincial level that is what we need. Because I think just telling them to dissolve it and eliminate it is not going to be well received at their end. There's obviously no appetite to do that. That said, if we were to all band together and have a unified voice as to present solutions to the problems that are currently at the Ontario Land Tribunal from a municipality's perspective and present solutions to the problem, then I think you may be able to bend the province's ear to be able to take a look at it from our perspective. Because you have to remember, the province is hearing it from the landowners, they're hearing it from the municipalities, and they're hearing it from the developers. And they have to be able to find the line of best fit to be able to accomplish what the Planning Act needs to accomplish, take into account the public interest with the appeal body, but then also ensure that the mechanism is being effective. And it's the effective part where there seems to be a struggle. So if we were to, I agree, if you would like to receive it for information, that is council's decision as to whatever it is you would like to do with the correspondence. But from a staff perspective, making a recommendation to delete a body such as this is not going to be received from the province in a way that I think they're intending it to be received. And I think you need to present solutions to a problem in order to get there. So that's my 2 cents.
So just for that then, so we have a motion on the floor right now and it's duly seconded. If we carried that motion through, would there be a chance to come back with something else that our council could come forward with to send out to all the 440 municipalities on something like that, to say we need to come up with a solution somehow going forward to help battle LPAT with some of the decisions on the people that sit on that board, say?
I would be able to advise council that once our current Ontario Land Tribunal case is over, I don't know if we want to be putting fresh correspondence out there right now, no. Considering what we have going on. And I think once it's over and we've been through the longest Ontario Land Tribunal or LPAD or OMB case that this township has ever seen, I think then we would be in a good position to be able to provide some comments from experience. But I think that should be at a later meeting when we're in a better position to be able to do that. And I wouldn't want to be putting forward correspondence in the middle of a hearing.
I agree. So it'd be just something that possibly that staff would come back with in a future meeting.
Yeah, we can add it to the action list. That's fine.
Could we just add that to the action list down the road?
Yeah, for a couple months ahead, sure.
Yeah.
Good comments. Okay, so there's a motion on the floor. Councillor Walsh and Deputy Mayor seconded it. Is there any other discussion on the motion? Seeing no hands, all in favor then, please. And that's carried. Thank you. All right, C6 is Camelford Memorial Hospital, near and dear to our broken bones and bad hearts and one thing after another. So this report is regarding support of the Camelford Memorial Hospital redevelopment, which is needed. So what's council's thoughts and comments or motions? Deputy Mayor Burt?
Support.
All right, so I believe the support would be with a letter from council to say that we are in support of having a new hospital in our area to a certain extent. So seconded by Councillor Warry. I've seen your hand. Is there any other discussion on this? All right, I guess so a letter would be drafted up, council, and that myself, the mayor, and the clerk would probably sign that letter and send it off to the corresponding people that need to see it, I guess. Is that the way that works, Candace?
Well, they have a draft. They've provided a draft letter, draft template that they would like each municipality to use. So we would just follow the template.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so there's a motion on the floor, duly seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor then? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, C7, Township of Alnwick, Haldeman, proclamation, Year of the Garden 2022. Council's thoughts on that? Anyone? Councillor Ward?
Yes, I like the proclamation. I'd say to receive and support.
All right, there's a motion. Anyone else would like to second that? Councillor Archer, is there any other discussion on that motion? Candace, please.
Just want to clarify. So then receiving and supporting it, does that mean that we are proclaiming it in Asphodel-Norwood as well? Because that proclamation would have to come back. It's like a separate proclamation. It's just a housekeeping item, but we would bring that back to council on March 22nd if we're going to proclaim as well.
Well, I'd like to hear what other people have to say, if they are in favor of having to support the proclamation. If we have to have a that I would be in favor of it. The Year of the Garden, I think, to get out and the gardening has been a big thing for COVID.
I'd like to
back to council.
Anyone else on the speak to the motion? Deputy Mayor Burt?
What exactly does that mean as a proclamation for a township? What does that entail? Does it require us to do certain things? I'm just curious because I don't know. What does a proclamation mean when it comes to gardening?
Sure. We've done a few proclamations in the township in the past. Autism Day, historically, Pride Day, some other days. And so sometimes it's just simply raising of a flag. It can be whatever we want it to be. It could be just simply as we're deeming this day to be significant, and we're deeming it to be, according to this, to be invited to proclaim 2022 to be the Year of the Garden in the respective municipalities. So I guess at that point in time, if we were to proclaim 2022 as a Year of the Garden, that we would then take that and make it whatever we want it to be. And I'm sure it'll be different in each community and each township, and it would be represented however council would like to see that represented, and be as simple or as big as we want it to be. There's no rule book.
We are going to have a Gales Garden, right?
Yeah.
We're going to have a Gales Garden, yes.
Yep. Councillor Ward, you had your hand up again.
Yes, thank you. Through you. I see that they do have June 18th, which is Father's Day, as the day that they have stated for their proclamation. I don't know if we could go with something like that as well. Maybe Gales Garden would also be a nice way to bring that into the Year of the Garden.
Any other comments on the motion? All right, Candace?
Okay, so just to clarify, there's two parts to the proclamation, so that the Saturday before Father's Day, June 18th, be recognized as Garden Day in the township of Alnwick-Haldimand as a legacy of Canada's Year of the Garden 2022. So it's kind of two proclamations built into one. So there's two things here. If you're proclaiming a day, as in now this day is proclaimed, then it's an annual kind of proclamation. The second part of it is they're declaring just 2022 as a year of the garden. So it's kind of a twofold support. So I guess from my point, I'm just trying to clarify what it is council is looking for. So are we going to proclaim that day in June as Garden Day in part and parcel as 2022 being Year of the Garden? So both pieces, like Alnwick-Haldimand is doing, are we going to do just 2022 Year of the Garden? Because at on the back of their proclamation, the last paragraph, that all municipalities across Canada be invited to proclaim 2022 to be the Year of the Garden. So it's kind of, there's two proclamations and there's two supports they're looking for. So I just want to make sure, are we doing the June day as Garden Day? Are we doing 2022 as Year of the Garden? Or are we going to do both? Just need to know. Something so simple, that's just turned into something so complicated. And I'm fine with both. Like, there's no rule book. You can literally say, yep, we want to mirror exactly what Alnwick-Haldimand is doing. We're going to support it. Let's do it. And we'll take it from here. I just want to make sure that I'm not assuming that it's just the day in June, or I'm just assuming that it's just 2022 as a whole. There is a difference there.
Deputy Mayor Burt?
I have one more comment. I'm wondering, something so simple and is becoming so complex. If we maybe take a step back, and if we want to do a proclamation of our own within our own township, that might be the best way to reflect our township. Just a thought. But I didn't make the motion or second the motion, so I'll leave that with the motion maker.
Councilor Ward, please.
I am fine for taking it back and just receiving it, and we can do something on our own. So am I allowed to take back that and just receive the report or receive the correspondence from C7?
I'm not sure. I think there was a motion and it was seconded. So if we voted on
it would
it,
have to be a motion to rescind, but
yeah.
I think supporting it, and that's why I asked, supporting it is different than proclaiming it, because we can just say we support you in your initiatives, well done, good for you, have fun in Alnwick-Haldimand with gardens. Like, we can do that and support them, but then it is a proclamation. So as the clerk, I needed to confirm. Now you can then direct me to bring back a proclamation with a recommendation as to how we do that in Asphodel-Norwood, if you wish to then take that on in our municipality as well. But the motion is there. You'd have to do a second motion to rescind before it's motioned. And but I don't really think your motion is wrong. Like, if you want to support it,
I wanted to support the motion. I wanted to support the correspondence. I didn't want to make that a day for township. Does that clarify it?
So you want to support with no proclamation?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, that's the way I understood your motion to begin with. Seconded was Councillor Archer, I believe. So you're in favor of that, then, Councillor?
Yes, for sure.
So just for clarification, clerk, are we doing things right here? Or do we need another motion?
Well, we will word the correspondence. When you support a proclamation, when they're asking you to proclaim something, they assume you're proclaiming it in your municipality. It's not, proclamations are different than correspondence. So I know it felt like we went down a rabbit hole there, but when you support a proclamation, we need to know whether we're proclaiming in Asphodel-Norwood. So we will send the correspondence to say that we support you in your initiatives, and we won't mention anything about a proclamation here, and staff will not bring anything back.
Yeah, because Year of the Pig or Year of the Hen, I mean, we're going to get ourselves into trouble here down the road. So, all right, there's a motion on the floor. It's seconded. I hope we're done with comment. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. Who'd have thought? All right, C8. Town of South Bruce Peninsula, municipal accommodation tax and crown campgrounds. This is a good one. Going forward, I'm sure we're going to have some discussion on this. Anyone like to start? Deputy Mayor Burt, please.
I would make a motion to receive with a comment.
Well, that was easy. Do I have a seconder on that one? Councillor Walsh, okay. And your comment, Deputy Mayor Burt, please.
Yeah, just my comment. Certainly every municipality is different when it comes to campgrounds and that sort of thing. So that's the reason I am receiving it. I'm sure we will see this it is within the county, and there are programs within the county where this takes place. So I think when it comes to our own municipality, that's time for discussion. But at this point, I would receive.
Yep, you did. All right, and it's seconded. Is there any other discussion on the motion? Seeing no hands, all in favor? And that's carried. I assume our clerk CAO is still with us, so we'll just carry on. So C9 then would be the Peterborough Child and Family Centers. This is a report regarding a donation request, relief of the town hall rental fees. And as I understand, we've been here before and done this before. So, Council, what's your thoughts and comments and questions? Councillor Walsh, please.
Yeah, and just to echo what you said, Mayor, we have supported this program in the past. It's a great program for mothers and kids in our community. And I would be supportive of in following our donation request policy, and that we would extend $500 to this organization in support of their programming in our local community.
All right, do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Ward. There's a motion on the floor. Is there any other discussion on the motion? Seeing no hands, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Council liaison reports. Anyone have anything they'd like to bring forward that can be transferred to Melanie later in life? Deputy Mayor Burt, please.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to touch base. Last week, the mayor and I had a couple of pretty long county council meetings, the majority of those being the development fees bylaw at the county. And that information has come back to the township as well. So very colorful, lively discussions. And Candace did touch on that at the very beginning of the meeting. And those will be continuing. So I just wanted to let everyone know about that. And also that on March 17th, 24th, 31st, and April 7th at 6 p.m. I'm sure you've all seen this, but those are the public meeting for the county official plan draft. And those 4 dates, they hit on different topics within the official plan, and you can just go on the website and look that up. And they're at 6 p.m. each of those 4 weeks. And that is all.
All right, thank you. Anyone else have anything else? All right, thank you. All right, on to CAO Clerk Treasurer's list. Candace, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to update council that we are looking at when the ice is going to be removed from the community center. We are receiving lots of requests to extend our ice season. I chatted with the lead hand of the community center this morning, and we're reviewing all of the requests to see from a feasibility standpoint when it makes sense. But I suspect at this point we're going to have the ice until May. There is Peterborough is going down to 1 pad from April 1st to July 16th for the whole city. So there is a lot of requests coming out. So if we could keep those seasonal staff working for a little bit longer and gain back that 3 weeks we lost earlier in the season, and keep the rentals at the point where they normally are, and it looks like that's going to be the case. So as long as feasibility is there, we'll be keeping it in, and it looks like it's going to be May. Township staff has also met, and we will be actively pursuing a craft hockeyville bid. Oh, can't spit that out, for 2023. So it's going to be a huge initiative that we're going to kickstart and kick off meeting and you're going to hear a lot throughout 2022. The application opens in February of each year. And after we reviewed it, we want to put in a strong application. And so we want to basically celebrate hockey in Asphodel-Norwood over the course of the next year and have some kickoff events. And you've got to create video and have a story. And it's to get points in the application for this. It's quite extensive, and we want to give it our best run. So we're going to go at a bid for 2023. I'll keep council aware of how that's going to roll out. And that's it for me.
Thank you. Just further to that about Craft Hockeyville, I have a picture here that was given to me by a past resident from years ago, but it had to do with the old hockey rink on Spring Street, actually. And I believe in the picture is Harry Kavanagh and his brother and a few other ones there that some people may know about. But there's a picture that I have in my possession right now that I need to give to somebody that's in the hockey world in our township. So that might go a long ways, because that takes us back to, I guess 1950 or so for hockey back then, before the Coliseum was built, or the Brethren run, I guess it was. So anyway, okay, thank you for your list there, Candace. Is there anything under general business then at this time? All right, seeing no hands, there's no closed motion. Oh wait, general business. Yeah, that was me. Sorry. I was thinking, I just wanted to bring to the attention of the staff that the Good Roads Convention has been pushed to April 10th to the 13th, I believe, of April. And there is a council meeting on the 12th and also a library meeting on the 11th. So if I do attend that through county for Good Roads, I can still take my computer to the city with me and be on Zoom, whether we're in council meeting or not. But we can bring that up in the next meeting if you'd like, or how we're going to run our meetings after the fact, if they're going to be in person or still with hybrid Zoom and in person. So I just thought I'd bring that up under general business. So any comments from anyone at this time?
Do you want an update?
Sure.
Okay. So we have ran a mock setup in the Millennium Room. It was not kind. So we are going back at it again and we're having management team do it on Friday morning at 8:30 of this week to try a different setup to see if we can get it to work. My concern is I don't want a council meeting to turn into an IT meeting. We have too much going on in a meeting and discussion to be worrying about whether the owl camera is looking at a person when they're speaking or not. And it just doesn't pick up voices, and we're sitting as close, I feel, as we can sit. So we're going to reach out to the technician. We're going to give it another try here Friday morning. We're still working through, I guess, bottom line is we're working the bugs out. We'll get there, but we need to know the exact configuration of those desks, the exact place with a marker as to where those owl cameras need to go, how loud we have to speak to be heard. There is different pitches of voices. We've learned that yesterday morning, there was one staff member that was there, and I think out of the 25 times they spoke, it picked up their voice once. Just the pitch of the voice, it wasn't grabbing. So we're working through the bugs. It would be nice we're aiming to be back in person for April. If we have council that is going to be away at our first meeting of a hybrid meeting, that's going to be fine. I don't know if I would want the mayor to be coming in hybrid for the very first time at the very first meeting that we're having. I would prefer it to be a staff member or two trying to come in. And if we had to push a staff report because we couldn't get it delivered, that's one thing. But if the mayor wasn't going to be able to attend and the IT wasn't working out and we were struggling, I think that might be, I would be more comfortable pushing our first meeting then when the mayor can be in person and we're just doing the hybrid approach for the first time with staff coming in to test the waters. That would be my personal preference. I don't know, Mayor, I don't know if you agree with that, but if you're going to go to Good Roads, I suspect that even if we're all ready to go, that we push the first in-council meeting hybrid to be the second meeting in April.
Yeah, that's why I brought it up under general business. So council, any thoughts or concerns too? At this time, I'm in agreement with, well, first of all, we've already talked about this before. We have to get the bugs worked out. We don't want to look like people that don't know what we're doing. It's hard enough sometimes to run a meeting with people fading in and out with the way technology is now with our computers. Never mind having something where somebody's trying to watch our council meeting and then not being able to pick up what we're saying. So that I can see that being very aggravating in the public eye. So,
well, I never thought I'd say I'd miss Zoom, but I think based on what we've got going on, I might.
Deputy Mayor Burt, you had your hand up.
Oh, yeah, I did. We've been doing this long enough and a little bit more time is not going to hurt. Let's get it right. And if we have to wait till May or whenever, it's fine. Let's let staff get the bugs worked out. They can do their tests and we'll go from there. And yeah, I think having staff come in on a hybrid version is much better than the mayor coming in on the hybrid version the first time until we get those bugs worked out. So I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I don't want to set a specific date again for council. I mean, or for staff to try to get this right. Let's leave it in your capable hands to get it right. I mean, I can defend what we have to do out there in the general public easily because we're doing the right thing and we're trying to be open and transparent. I mean, if they want to watch a live stream video, they can. If they want to watch the recorded version, they can. At least we're getting it right, and the public can see it now. Where if we're in with that owl, like you said, and it's not working, I'd rather let's get it right and be done the first time proper. So I just don't want to leave staff hanging and saying the 26th would be our next meeting after in April and then still not have it right. So I'd rather have staff come back and say, hey, you know what? Surprise, we're actually having a live council meeting and it's open to the public. That would be my wish. Any other thoughts or comments from council? All right, doesn't have to be a motion by anything like this. Candace, we just carry on as normal, right now? Yep, okay. Thank you. So next on the agenda then, if no one else has anything under general business, I take it then. All right, there's no closed motion. There's no notice of motion, no closed session, I should say, sorry. No notices of motion. And is there any bylaws today then? It says no bylaws on the agenda, but did we have bylaws today now?
Just the confirming.
All right, then I'll ask you to speak of the confirming bylaw, please.
Being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the regular meeting of the Council of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood held March 8th, 2022, be read a first, second, and third time in numbered bylaw 2022-10.
Thank you. So that's motioned by Councillor Ward, seconded by Councillor Walsh. All in favor? Okay, thank you. That's carried. And you see the future meeting schedule ahead of you. And then I'll ask for a motion then that we adjourn this meeting of today, March 8th, 2022, that we be adjourned for our next council meeting of regular meeting of March 22nd, 2022 by Zoom, obviously at 1 p.m. or by call of the chair. And we're going to adjourn at 3:12 p.m. Motioned by Councillor Archer, seconded by Deputy Mayor Burt. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, thank you, staff, and thank you, council. And everyone be safe and enjoy the rest of your sunny afternoon. And just one other comment before you flag us out of here. I just want to mention how good of a job that our township staff have been doing on the roads. These are trying times. Everybody's getting tired. I don't know when these people have slept the last, but from rain to sleet to plug culverts to ditches have to be taken out to fixing our roads. One thing after another, please, our hats off to the township staff for their hard work and pass that on for us, okay? Yes, thank you. All right, folks, have a good day. Bye for now.
Yep, bye now.